what makes an MMO good? What makes an MMO stay with us? And I thought the way to go about this was to ask, what is your favorite MMO? Now, a video like this is more than just trying to get some views from the combined power of so many different creators. It tells the story of why so many of us have devoted so much time to this genre as players and some of us as content creators. MMOs are special, but the reason why they are special can vary from person to person. Now, I gave everyone 2 minutes to answer this question, and while at times I thought that may be too long, what I came into contact with was that 2 minutes is not enough time to answer a simple question of, what is your favorite MMO and why? It's difficult, and I can understand why it would take longer than 2 minutes. The reason we spend so much time in these worlds is deeply personal and often tied to when and how we found them. These answers span years, decades even for some, and each answer is valid, even if they may conflict with each other. There is no one right way to play an MMO. There's your way to play an MMO. This is something I have learned from creating MMO content and honestly exploring some of the different ways that I have played MMOs over the years. The different times in my life when I have needed different things from the genre. But I want to know about you too. Why don't you leave in the comments below, what is your favorite MMO and why? Tell us, let us know what brings you to this genre. And as always, please don't be a dick in the comments. That's dickish to do. I want to take a quick moment here to say thank you to all of the content creators who took the time to answer this question that is so important to us, to give us part of their time and give personal and genuine answers. We all appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much. I genuinely respect and admire these content creators. Please take a moment. Their links are going to be down below. Go to their Twitch, go to their YouTube, check them out. You will like their content. I did not pick people that I did not think you would enjoy. And if Bazgrim's video doesn't tug at your heartstrings, I don't know what will. And by the end of MitchManix's video, you'll probably want him to narrate your life. I know I certainly do. Is that something we can work out, please? Now we're going to start with MarleVVLL because I think their video and the message it gives is an important way to set the tone as we go into everyone's videos.
I'm MarleVVLL. My channel exists to connect gamers with MMOs they'll love. Redbeard asked what my favorite MMO is, but I love too many to pick just one. To begin, New World makes sharing sausages easier than ever. More seriously, Project Gorgon's itemization always keeps progression feeling fresh. Guild Wars 2's mounts are par excellence, and Guild Wars 1 remains a favorite for everything Guild Wars 2 got wrong. Aerolith is a role player's paradise. The Elder Scrolls Online's quests are the most immersive in the genre. Everquest difficulty will masochistically keep you playing 20 years later. Wakfu's brilliant audio and visual design is a feast for the ears and eyes. Star Wars The Old Republic storytelling is a friendly reminder that BioWare was once a good studio. Spellborn's world is unlike anything we've ever seen. Building your character in Anarchy Online can qualify you for a PhD. Final Fantasy XIV's crafting actually has mechanics involved, to which point Everquest II is an honorable mention here. Star Wars Galaxies' economy mirrors real-world fiscal complexities. The Lord of the Rings Online's landscape is the very best visual representation of Professor Tolkien's work ever produced. Old school RuneScape provides a friendly reminder that we no longer have the time to grind skills for 12 hours straight. And Warhammer Online's Realm vs. Realm consistently draws over 1,000 players into cataclysmic battle. In other words, like wine, I don't have a favorite variety that pairs well with all foods in every social setting. Deciding to play an MMO is a contextual decision that considers what our friends are playing, the delta of our progress versus theirs, how sensitive we are to aggressive monetization schemes, and the barrier to entry, whether that's monetary or temporal. In short, play whatever MMO brings you joy, and celebrate each other's choices, even if they're different.
ManOfRohan's favorite MMO.
I have a secret. My favorite MMO does not rhyme with EverQuest. Unless you put a 2 at the end of it.
Released in 2004 with the promise of amazing state-of-the-art graphics, stunning water effects, player housing, highly voiced NPCs, Laura Cartman composing the score, and the chance to explore the shattered lands of Norath once again with fresh eyes and ears is what drew me in. So, I'm only framing my favorite status based on the vanilla game plus the first 4 expansions. There are so many things that made EQ2 great. Some of these may sound like,
Duh, everyone does this.
But no one else was doing this when EQ2 did it first. The design of the game was...
Character progression.
You had to unlock your full potential as a class, and it was awesome. There were discoveries, and lore and legend quests, and language quests, and collectibles.
Zone design.
Zones were designed to give you lots of ways to progress, through access quests, and low and high level dungeons within each tier, and even low level raid areas.
The tiers system.
Zones were...
And are.
Zones are tied to crafting and harvesting, which just further encourages progression through exploration. There's a lot more, but at this point I'm just listing things. So look, EQ2 has its flaws, we know. But the good, in my opinion, far outweighs the bad. The amount of polish and care put into this game made so many moments feel epic and like a real adventure. And most of all, it was still based on group play. In my opinion, that's it.
By the way, I'm hoping to have a different answer to this question imminently.
Okay, so my answer is definitely going to be World of Warcraft. I did start playing in 2006, right before the first expansion, the Burning Crusade. So I was able to get swept up into the momentum of what I believe is the peak time for World of Warcraft. Wrath of the Lich King was also fantastic. I would say that those are the 2 best expansions that they've ever put out. The rest of them are good in their own right, but in my humble opinion, I think that was the best time in WoW. And why do I say that? The zones were incredible. The questing, the thing about questing in WoW is that you do not feel that grindiness that you feel with some other MMOs. Also, the dungeons and raids, they have cutscenes, they have stories, there's lore hidden within it. The dungeons are interesting, some of them even give you options. You don't see that in other MMOs. And I'll also say that the worlds are beautiful. WoW is so good at storytelling and world building. That game is so immersive. You can go off and quest, you can go off and pick flowers, you can just go exploring and look for secrets. Everything is up to you, and they put so much there with intention. And I also say this is like a very small thing, but I love with WoW that when you load into a continent, that's the only loading screen that you're gonna get, unless you go into a dungeon, I will say that. But there are some MMOs that I've tried playing where it's just loading screen, loading screen, loading screen. And to me, that completely pulls you out of that immersion. You can play hours of WoW and have no idea that you've just spent hours, and I find that just so beautiful. I also think that my like 200 mount collection is also beautiful. But that is my answer. That is why I love WoW so much.
My favorite MMO of all time is the big daddy of them all, EverQuest. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I think it's the best. Number 1, the Quaternity. Some people call this the Holy Trinity, but I like to call it the Quaternity because that's what Pantheon Rise of the Fallen calls it. So the Quaternity is where in your MMO, in your classes, you have a tank class, you have a healer class, you have DPS classes, and then the 4th one is you have crowd control classes. What really made EverQuest great, one of the things is that you had a bard and enchanter, and they were crowd control classes. And I really feel that made the game more interesting and more unique out of all the other MMOs. Number 2, 6 is the perfect group size. I'm so sick of MMOs giving us small group sizes. 4 people in a group is a co-op. It's not an MMO, and it's not a group in an MMO. It's just pathetic. 6 people coming together, forging forth, having an adventure, going on quests. That is the perfect group size. EverQuest had this magical way of making you feel like you were a part of a world. Not the main character of the world, but being a part of the world. And that was a really interesting feeling. Now, maybe that was the fact because you needed a group to do anything in EverQuest. Or maybe it was the fact that there was a hill giant around every corner, waiting to kill you and take experience and maybe even your level from you. Or maybe it was the fact that travel was so daunting and horrible sometimes. I can't tell you how many times I died from the boat. But all those things together made it really feel like you were in a world, and without instances and all that other nonsense, you really felt like you were a part of that world. I'm Draq, and these have been my 3 reasons why I think EverQuest is the greatest MMO.
Well, what haven't I said about why I think EQ is my favorite MMO of all time? I've used it in several discussions, when we're talking about examples of game mechanics that I thought worked well, when we're talking about class identity and open world discovery and all that jazz. But if I'm being honest with myself, even if it was the most well-designed game ever, which it certainly is not, it was never about something inherent to EQ itself. It's my favorite MMO because of how it affected my life when I was playing it. And I do think that is partly due to the game that it was. So for me, EQ did 3 really cool things. Firstly, it reconnected me with some friends that I was living away from at the time. I was separated by about 1,000 kilometers from my home, and this is while I was in university. And EQ made it so we could still play together. We could still play the games we liked together. And it was exciting, it was a new type of world. And it was really just what the doctor ordered for me at the time. It led to some all-nighters at Carnor's Keep, and some missed study sessions trying to do a fear break, and some corpse runs that led to me running into exams at the last possible minute. It definitely did. But, more importantly, it got me through a couple very lonely, potentially very lonely years. Secondly, EverQuest allowed me to meet new friends, new guildmates that I actually really bonded with due to, the shared traumatic moments that EQ, really brought about. I actually would eventually travel from Canada to the States to meet some of my guildmates, and we met up and we had a great time, and it was an adventure, a real life adventure. And as we do, we moved on. We don't really keep in touch anymore, but those are some pretty uniquely memorable moments that I think, EQ was very good at creating. Thirdly, EQ made me realize just what lied ahead in terms of the future of online shared world. To think that was just the beginning for me, or at least for me it was. I know that there'd been previous MMOs about how our gaming world could look and feel going forward, impacted me greatly as, a longtime lover of all things video game related. EQ made me optimistic for what my gaming life, what laid ahead in my gaming life in 1999. And here we are today. So that's probably much more than the 2 minutes that, Redbeard said I could use to make this video, but whatever, it is what it is. There you go. That's why EverQuest is my favorite MMO of all time.
Hi there, my name's MitchManix, and if I were to pick a favorite MMO of mine, I would have to go with The Elder Scrolls Online. I've met so many great people over my time with the game, not to mention the combat having much more of a focus on movement, with dodge rolling and blocking a factor, really making for a highly engaging experience, especially at its more endgame focused activities. A highly addictive PvP system, with 3 factions fighting over control over an absolutely massive open world map, veteran mode dungeons and raid content for both solo and group play. There has to be some of the most challenging and rewarding content I've ever experienced in an MMO. All wrapped up in a world brimming with character from the renowned Elder Scrolls series. Fully voiced and lore-heavy questlines, a massively feature-rich crafting and gathering system, as well as featuring by far the most expansive player housing system, really makes ESO for any fan of the Elder Scrolls or MMOs in general a must to try out. It won't be for everyone, but for me it holds some of my most treasured memories of the genre, even despite its slightly dated visuals and other shortcomings.
Oh my god, I have reached my final form, Dover Crab.
Thank you, Redbeard Flynn, for the collaboration. What is my favorite MMO? Fallout 76, hands down. Runs perfect, no glitches, no greedy monetization, best game ever! No. I run an EverQuest channel, but it's not the best game. I've accepted there is no best MMO because no two MMO players are the same. A lot of people like solo-friendly games, and I had a great time playing Elder Scrolls Online. And then some people want PvP games, and that's the rise of Fortnite, Warzone, New World. But I fall into a weird camp of MMO player. My latest videos address a problem. There's a core feature that's been mistakenly abandoned in MMOs, what I feel is the defining feature of this genre. These games were not meant to be single-player games. They were meant to be played with others. And that's one thing that makes this game so dang special. You could be having the worst day, and then one person's kindness turns it all around. And that social interaction is what's so sorely missing in newer MMOs, and it's what I'm trying to spotlight in these videos. It's why EverQuest is still such a special game. It's not the game itself, it's the people you meet playing it. I have never had more fun playing a video game than when I teamed up with some friends to go take down some bad guys. When we had to work together to defeat challenges, and how well I played actually mattered to those 5 other people. Their compliments on how well I played meant more to me than getting those 5 gold coins for completing a stupid quest. And that is why EverQuest is my favorite game. It's outdated, it's clunky, it's an eyesore. Say what you will, but it is a game that forces you to team up with others, for good and for bad. But when it's good, there's no drugs like it. I think I need therapy now.
Okay, so what is my favorite MMO and why? Well, this goes back all the way to 2004 when I discovered the MMO genre. I started playing Final Fantasy XI, and the idea of being able to run around and see actual people literally blew my mind. I couldn't believe that was a thing back when cyber cafes were a thing, and the only way to see other people in multiplayer was by going in a LAN center and seeing them face to face. And I started with Final Fantasy XI. That was my first game. I kind of say that's my favorite one, but I have a very nostalgic sentiment about it, this game. But later on, World of Warcraft got released. In Europe, it was 2005, and I bought it straight away. So I would say World of Warcraft was my favorite one of all times. For the same very reason, because you could see so many people. World of Warcraft was so popular back then. And even though we didn't have Spanish people, we didn't have official servers, we still made our communities and stuff. I got to meet people that I met in the game. So the social aspect back in the day was so important. And right now I feel like that's lost, because it's so easy to get in touch with people nowadays, up to the point where you actually avoid people. But back then it was very hard to connect in the same way, right? There was no Discord, there were no easy access to voice chats and all of this. So this is why MMOs were so important back then. And nowadays I feel like all that magic is gone, sadly. Even though I keep playing these games, I feel it's not the same, and I don't think I will bring that feeling back. I will keep playing World of Warcraft. The reason why I love World of Warcraft so much is because I spent so many hours playing Warcraft 3, and I love the story. I read some of the books. Of course, a war where everything revolves around the Warcraft universe attracted me so much. So yeah, I have a good sentiment about it. And thank you so much, Repier, for letting me participate in this. Bye, bye, bye.
I have 2 favorite MMOs, and I really can't pick one over the other, so I'm just going to tell you about both, okay? First up is EverQuest. I started playing EQ in 1999 when I was very young, like 5 or 6 years old. And I played with my family almost exclusively. Now, they were actually the ones who made this sweatshirt of my first character, Lenamar, the High Elf Paladin, and yes, I still fit into it after all these years. But anyway, I really cherish those memories. There were several of us that all played together on a regular basis, and that's how I learned online etiquette and teamwork, and even just typing on a keyboard. Like, EQ is absolutely what sparked my interest in all things fantasy and gaming and computers, etc. Now, fast forward to when I got to college, I rediscovered an MMO I had played a little bit in high school called Dungeons and Dragons Online. And at that time in college, I was single, I was pretty depressed, to be honest, in need of a social outlet, and so I dove headfirst into the DDO community. And because I had all sorts of free time on my hands, within a couple years, I was leading a guild. We were raiding alongside the best guilds on the server, breaking various records, etc. And to be honest, up until that point in my life, I never really felt that special or that good at anything. And so I remember genuinely thinking to myself, like, how did this happen? Like, how did I get here? And I realized that I was just an average guy, but I had spent so much time every day working very hard on something I enjoyed and surrounded myself with good people along the way. And that's pretty much all it took. And even though being a top player in DDO is by no means a huge accomplishment in the grand scheme of life, I couldn't help but wonder if, with the right mindset, I could apply what I had learned in DDO and other MMOs, like leadership and communication and determination, problem solving, etc., to other aspects of my life. And after that, my jobs got better, my relationships got better, and I just overall became a much happier person, all because of an MMORPG. Like, how cool is that? So that is why EQ and DDO both have very special places in my heart.
So what can we take from this? What can we take from hearing from so many different creators about what their favorite MMO is and why? The answers have been varied. There's not a simple one size fits all that'll work here. And that's kind of why I think that we're in the golden age of the MMO. Now, I know that a lot of people will say that the MMO genre is dying or is dead or etc, etc. And I am an optimist. If you've been on this channel for any amount of time, you know I'm an optimist. But the reason why I say it's the golden age of MMO is because of all these answers. Because so many different players enjoyed so many different things about MMOs, whether it was being able to play games solo or the social aspects that still exist, or having really rich storylines, or, you know, in some cases PvP. And we have in this golden age where we have MMO genres. We have hardcore PvP MMOs with Mortal Online 2. We have story-driven MMOs with Final Fantasy XIV. We have old school MMOs with RuneScape and EverQuest and Ultima Online still around, and games that pay homage to those in the pipeline like Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, and Monsters and Memories. And I still think there's a lot of room for this genre to grow, even as we see these huge numbers of people trying out games for the first time. Yes, New World crashed and burned, but it still hit almost 1 million players. Lost Ark shattered that and went way over 1 million players and has maintained some of that despite some of its monetization issues. There is an appetite for the MMO genre that I think hasn't really been acknowledged. It is still a very ripe genre for exploration. And I hope that some of these answers will show you that there's a lot of reasons to it. And I want to say again, thank you to all the creators that gave some of their time to me and to all of you and recorded these videos. This was not something that was easy for them. Condensing your answer, that answer down to just 2 minutes is not easy. You try and do it yourself. Try and answer within 2 minutes. Set a timer. Why not? Just do it for fun. Set a timer and see if you can answer it in 2 minutes. It's not easy, especially the why part. Now, if you want to have a bit of a more controversial take than this, I have this video here which covers my thoughts on pay to win. But if you want something a little more fun, take a look at this video which has the 5 biggest stories of the MMO history.